everyone, and welcome to The Well-Tended Life. I'm your host, Carrie Wilt, a speaker, writer, and heart cultivator who is on a mission to help you grow through anything. I am here today with my very special guest, Michelle Clapton, who has agreed to be a part of this series called Our Secret Garden Stories, which features many of those who have helped bring the new Secret Garden movie to life. So welcome, Michelle. Thank you so much for coming and chatting with me today.
Thank you for asking me. It's a great pleasure.
Oh my goodness. So let me tell you that there are several reasons why I called them and said, I want to talk to Michelle. One, every single person that I've interviewed, from Rosie to Mark to all of them, every single one of them has said how fabulous you are and how amazing you are. Two, I have seen the movie several times already, and the costumes are something that will go down on record as being some of the coolest, amazing things I think anybody's ever created. And three, my great-great-grandmother Frances was a huge fashionista. And so she, I think, probably would not let me rest unless I had a conversation with you. Her son, which is my great-grandfather, he wrote her biography after she passed, like within maybe 6 months after she passed. And one of the things he said was that fashion was her best indoor sport.
Oh, fantastic. Feel like me.
So yes, her cousins and aunts, they all called her Fluffy, because she had this big curly hair, but she also wore these big poofy hats and frilly. Matter of fact, I hung a little bit of lace of hers right here just so she was here with us in the room, but she was all about fashion. So to not have the costume designer for The Secret Garden on my podcast was basically sacrilege and was not going to happen. So thank you so much for talking to me in your busy world.
That's fine. No, it was such a joy to work on that film. It was my dream, really. It was so much fun. And our thing was always that we wanted to like the costumes so much that they made us cry. That was our motto on the film.
I pretty much think you succeeded. So do me a favor. Tell people really kind of the general who you are, and what maybe even they might even know you from in the past, some things that you've worked on before.
Well, my name's Michelle Clapton, and I'm a costume designer. And I worked on, well, I suppose the best known thing is Game of Thrones, which I designed for most of the seasons, and The Crown. And I guess those two probably say most. I'm working on other stuff now, of course, and just starting another series. But yeah, so that's what I do, and I'm passionate about detailing and costume and colour. And I've worked with Mark Munden before as well. I worked with him on a program called The Devil's Hall, which was a series we did many years ago now, which actually won the BAFTA for, so that was lovely too. So I've worked with Mark before, and as soon as I heard he was doing this project, I was like, oh, that would be rather fun to do, because I like the way his mind works. So
yes, I mean, everyone I've interviewed has said, I mean, really, he is part of the reason that this film has blossomed in the way that it did. His ability to let you all really do what you do best and run with it, and kind of not put limitations to what something could or should look like. It's evident in every corner of the movie, in every part.
And I think that's what makes him such a great director to work with. He doesn't stifle you. He allows you to flow. I mean, yes, he'll guide sometimes, and he comes up with fantastic little gems of information. And what I love is he always has this book which he writes very detailed notes in of every day that he wants to film. And sometimes we give him things and they make it to the book, and we'll go, yeah, we made it to the book of the show. And I just love the idea that he's actually got it all planned out. Every day he turns the page, and that's all the notes for the scenes he's shooting. I think it's exceptionally interesting. So yeah, it was a great pleasure of ours to be part of it.
So is that how you came to be a part of this? Did you hear he was doing it and approach him, or how does that work in your world?
I don't think I heard he was doing. I think I just got approached to see if I would like to go and interview for it. And I said, yes, please. And I actually think I was still working on Game of Thrones at the same time. And I went, yep, I still don't care. I'm still going to do it alongside Game of Thrones. So I was like trying to juggle both. So I went for the interview, and I remember the night before having this idea that I really wanted the costumes to grow, the garden influence of the costumes, so that the embroidery sort of grew on. So I had this idea, and so I went to the meeting with Rosie and Mark, and I just spoke about how I wanted the patterns to grow and butterflies to sort of form on the costumes, and that I wanted it to be created in the costume, not by a visual effect. And they obviously sort of really liked the idea. And so then I think we had another interview because I said, can I meet again? And they said, yes. I said, okay, this is the idea, but I want to know that I can really be allowed to do this. And they were like, yes, you will be able to do this. Okay, then I'd really like to do the film. I think it's the only time I've ever gone back for a second interview just to make sure I could really do it how I wanted to do it, because it was so important to me that it would be like I envisaged it. So yeah, it was, and from there we just sort of moved forward and had a lovely Dixie, which helped no end, and the casting was fantastic, and we all worked in one room. And we all painted and printed and sewed, and we all got involved in it. I think we had a team of about 10. And it was one of those places where everyone just did everything. I mean, I was painting out prints, and it was a gorgeous. And we all said it was our favourite film we've ever worked on.
Oh, that's high praise, right? I mean,
yeah,
you know,
it was a very special.
How long does it take, like from start to finish? Like once you create an idea, how long does that take to kind of bring a costume to fruition?
I think we had, I'm just guessing here, but I think we probably had about 10 weeks prep. So, you know, I designed the costume, I draw pieces and slowly involve the makers and the embroiderers, and we do samples and a lot of dye. I mean, I'm very passionate about dyeing and colours, so I always dye lots of samples to try and storyboard it with colours that I want to sing in the garden. And I work with the production designer to make sure my colours are going to work in his room, in his spaces. So that's the process. And then as it's cast, obviously we start going into fittings, and it's engaging with the actors and trying to excite them about the characters, especially younger children as they are. Dixie, although she's so phenomenally bright, she's a child, and it's trying to give her the sort of the essence of this character, and that I wanted her to be a tomboy. And I loved the idea that I took, when she finally gets to the house, I wanted her to discover, although we don't really see this, her mother's clothes. And so she starts dressing herself when she learns how to dress herself in her mother's clothes. By taking it back to the 30s, it makes it almost even more timeless. And that she wears her pajamas under her skirts, and it's this lovely sort of eclectic way of dressing that she creates for herself. So I was very keen to do that.
So tell me about this. Did you have a connection to The Secret Garden prior to this? Had you read it as a child? Tell me about that.
I think I don't know anyone who hasn't had it read to them or has read it as a child. And I think it's really interesting because some people say, oh, but why are you making another Secret Garden? It's because every generation needs to see a version of The Secret Garden. Yes. And then I see people say, oh, but it's not like the old one. It's not like, yes, but that one was for you. And this one is for children now. And so it has to engage with how children want to see things now. It's the same story, but they don't want to watch the 1992 version. They want to watch their version. And so I think it's so important to constantly sort of go back to these lovely stories and to show them again in a fresh way for the next generation. That's my opinion anyway.
100%. Yes. This film feels like it's made for those kids who've grown up on Harry Potter. And I mean, clearly all of those things work together to excite a kid about a classic story that maybe they've heard of, maybe they haven't. Chances are they have at least heard of it, but also show it to them in a whole new way. I mean, I know for me, I mean, of course, I've seen it a million times. I've seen it on stage different times. I've seen the musicals. I've seen all the stories. And, you know, it was just as exciting, I think, if not more exciting, to see it through this new lens. And, you know, and I keep describing it as the movie itself feels like a big giant hidden pictures. Do you remember those from when you were young, you know, circling the things that you could find, and your costuming was such a big piece of that. You know, just when you think you have seen the whole picture, you go back and then you go, oh wait, I just noticed something growing on a costume, and you're like, wait, did I miss all the ones before? So I think it also helps to it has helped to create a movie that people will want to go back and see over and over and over again for those little nuances that once they spot it, they're like, oh, I know there's more.
I mean, to me, that's always really fascinating as well, especially now in the age where lots of people watch TV or watch series and they rewatch. It's not always like going to the cinema and you see a film once. People do rewatch. So I love putting those little messages in. So people, as you say, you know, oh, and so you watch it again for a different reason. And then you go, oh my gosh, that gave me a message there. So that would have told me this was going to happen. So I think those are really sort of interesting. And also, Mark, when I was starting to design it, he said, oh, have you heard of the Kibbo Kift movement? And I hadn't. I started researching it. It was this lovely group of people. It was almost like the Scouts, but they believed in world peace and health. And it was really interesting researching it. So I loved the idea that her mother was part of this movement. And so they had little fox badges. So we started making little badges that she'd made for herself for her Kibbo Kift. So the last little costume, she wears a blue coat, is supposed to be a little Kibbo Kift coat, which is just fun to look back in and sort of, that was like a reason as to why someone is wearing or doing something. Because then I think it becomes a whole, and you always have an answer when someone asks you a question, but why did you put her in that color? Well, because, and you just sort of explain the reasoning behind it. So,
it's so lovely. What's the name of the movement again? What did you call it?
The Kibbo Kift.
Spell that.
It's KIBBO KIF for Freddie T. Kibbo Kift. I think that's how it's spelled. It's beautiful. And they make masks and they dress up. And so that's why we have the little masks as well.
Yes.
I love it running around. So,
see, I learned something new today. I did not know that. I all the other things, you know, felt very lovely, but I didn't know the reason behind that. That's cool. I got to go look that up and learn more about it myself.
Well, it was lovely. That's the thing that Mark does. He just drops something and you go, and then it takes somewhere else, you know.
I can go and it helps to take you a whole nother direction that maybe you hadn't thought of before. Did you create the masks also? Was that a part of you? Okay.
Yeah.
I guess that makes sense. They're wearing them, right? Sorry. Yeah. I've never interviewed an Emmy winning, by the way, she didn't mention that in her interview, an Emmy winning costume designer. So I don't even know all the good questions to ask.
I have to say one thing, when we first started looking at it, we were just scouting around and I wanted her to carry her sandwiches in a little box. And we were in Paris at this fabric show, and just on one of them, there was this funny little French woman who had this beautiful store. And it was and I found that little box that she wears, and it's out of cardboard actually, little as the straps, and it was one of hers when she would have been a child. And so we bought that, and it was the most beautiful little hand, and her sandwiches just fitted in it perfectly, because she doesn't want to wear her hold us out. She wants to put them in something.
Yes, because she has to have her hands free to do all the awesome things that she wants to go do, because she's a tomboy.
It's lovely finding those little pieces, even when you're not particularly looking for it. This could be, and then, you know, things grow like that sometimes. You just find a beautiful thing and you make that work within character.
I love that.
Hey friends, I know you're loving my interview with Michelle, but I wanted to break in and thank you for posting 5-star reviews over on Apple Podcasts like this one. She says, "The Well-Tended Life provides seeds to plant in my own life, as well as a great application for the harvest of joy, growth, and gratitude that Carrie shares through each guest." As she signs off with blessings and blooms, you know you have been blessed by the time well spent, and you will see blooms in your day. Thank you, thank you, thank you for all of those heartfelt reviews. My heart is truly bursting. If you haven't taken the time to leave one yet, I really could still use your help. If you don't know, every time you leave a positive review on Apple Podcasts or make a comment on our YouTube channel or on any of the Well-Tended Life social media posts, it unlocks the doors for others to experience the life-tending magic too. So don't just watch, listen, and scroll on by. Next time, leave us a positive review. Tell a friend to like or follow The Well-Tended Life, share a post, or simply comment away when a topic strikes your fancy. I also wanted to remind you to make sure you're signed up for our weekly newsletter so that you don't miss out on what's growing on here at The Well-Tended Life. So head on over to thewelltendedlife.com and plant your email in the subscribe box. Then, each week, I'll send out a quick note to all of my Well-Tended Life friends that includes the link to these podcasts, inside information on growth, goodness, and general goings-on that you don't want to miss. And now, let's get back to the goodness that blooms in the rest of this chat with Michelle.
So the next 3 questions I have to ask you come out of my daily practice, which is inspired by The Secret Garden, when Mary said, basically, she would never forget, she never wanted to forget that first day when her garden began to grow. So I'm always looking back at the day before and thinking, you know, what bit of joy did I see? What goodness am I grateful for? And what kind of personal growth or life lessons did I learn? Because I don't want to miss them, right? We're all running fast. So talk to me about, I mean, I know it's been a couple years, really. You've probably had a million other projects since this one already. But what brought you the most joy during this filming?
I have to say it was, I mean, it's the story, of course, but it was the crew, and it was the atmosphere that was created within the crew making it. And I think even like, sorry, I'm going to have to use my fan, I'm so hot. Even the driver that drove me went, "This is the best job I've ever been on." And it was the idea that we were traveling around these beautiful gardens of England and Wales and creating this sort of magical film. And for some reason, it was the most beautiful spring and summer. It was like everything had just come together. And I think I broke my foot on 2 days before, or I did it really badly to my foot falling out of my hotel. I wasn't drunk. I just fell down the steps.
Oh, no!
I was in a wheelchair for the first sort of few days of filming and then had to hobble around. It was just such a nightmare. But even that I don't remember that. I just remember the sort of joy and just the gardens were just so stunning. And also the acting, the children were such brilliant actors, and just the way, especially Dixie, she would walk onto every set every day and she'd talk to everyone and have this just friendliness. So everyone benefited from that. So it was joyful. It's a joyful shoot.
So going a little bit deeper, what are you most grateful for being a part of this project?
Gosh, it's just something that stays with me. I think it's funny, actually. I actually now grow far more flowers and far more. I'm much more into nature again. I even bred butterflies this summer during lockdown because I liked it.
Wait. Did you say you bred butterflies?
Well, I collected the eggs off the plants I didn't really want them to eat, and then they hatched into caterpillars, and then I fed them the leaves I didn't mind them eating, and then they came into chrysalis, and then 2 weeks later they flew into butterflies. And that's something we all think we know that process, but that dress, I want to revisit that process. So that was really interesting. And it just takes you back to sort of the idea of friendship and the way people would interact and how you think someone is some way and they're not. And it's just that sort of family experience. I think it's a beautiful story that just sort of resonates and you forget it sometimes. And then revisiting it and then living as part of it is just really extraordinary. Yeah, really moving.
Oh my gosh, it all sounds so surreal. Every time someone talks about it, you expressed very similar things to almost every single person I've interviewed about the state of the set and how everyone felt and the friendliness, and that it was the best set that they've ever worked on. And you know, it's clear that they're not. You are all not just saying that to be kind or nice. Yes.
No, I feel very protective of the film. I don't like it if people don't like it. I mean, how dare they? They don't understand it at all. And I think if people don't like it, they're not looking at it in the right way. They're looking at it from their eyes and not from the eyes of the people who it's aimed at. And they don't understand the people. That's my take on it. I'll stand up for it.
I love that. So what kind of personal growth came out of this experience for you? Were you stretched in any way? Did you learn anything through the creative process of this film or just working on it?
I think what was really nice about it, I've worked on such huge projects lately, like Game of Thrones and Canal, where I've become very much about being just the designer. And it was great to work with a small team of people again and to get back into things I liked, which I loved. And stitching. I made the hat which she always wear, and I made this little dressing gown by hand at home. I found an old 30s smock which I took apart and then restitched just when I was at home myself, because it was something I wanted to contribute to in a way that I often don't get to do so. And often I was with printing woman. And I said, can I just paint out the bits? And she said, yes, you can. So I was actually trying to be really involved. And I'm not good enough. I mean, the embroiderers, I can't really help with the embroidery because they're too brilliant at it. But where I could, I did. And I really got a lot. I love being part of that. I love hand stitching. And I so often don't get that. So it was very much like, we were just a very happy team, and we all helped each other, and it was great. We all, as I say, I think we all grew. We all just went back to doing things we love doing.
I love that. And it's so nice to reconnect with those things that kind of probably got you into designing in the first place. Those,
exactly.
you know, those simple things. Oh
exactly.
my goodness. Talk to me. I'm sorry, say again?
Yes, I always loved making things, and I so rarely get a chance, and I did get the chance on that.
So what did that look like for you growing? Did you learn to stitch from your grandmother, or like how did you get into this business?
I was always really, for some reason, I don't know, I was always really, as long as I can remember, interested in clothes and how they fit and how they smelt and how they made me feel. And I always used to dress up and make things up. And I came from a little village in the middle of nowhere, so I didn't really understand how I could have a career in that. I didn't even know there was a career, but luckily I had the careers master who said, well, why don't you go and do textiles and fashion? I'm like, okay. So I did, and I just sort of got into it initially by cutting textiles, designing, and then into fashion. And I didn't like fashion as a business because it's a business. It's not about design. And then slowly I found my way into costume, quite late, because it's rather all-consuming filmmaking. You could be away for months on end, so with a young family it's quite hard. So I waited a little while until I really delved into it. And it's about storytelling ultimately, and I think that's what I enjoy most. It's the storytelling and how you can support the narrative visually and enrich, you know, the look of a film and the senses of the film. And I think that's the draw for me, really. And also I love fabrics, and I love that, and I love creating those things. And I like making. I hate buying. I like making everything, and I love my work with all the people in it that I trust. And they help me because I can draw something, but I can draw anything I like, but if I haven't got the people to make it, it's just a drawing. Right. It has to become something, and those people sort of help me create it, and they add to it, you know, their skills in develop that look. So yeah, it's very important, that relationship, I think, with your team.
I love that. My hope is by, you know, talking to you today that people will better understand a little bit too, just, you know, we probably take for granted what it is that you do. It's kind of the unsung hero, but it really, what you do sets the tone for everything we see. What someone wears sometimes makes you like them or not like them, or draw you in and gives you clues about their character, like you said. It's amazing.
And it helps the actor as well become that character, I think. You know, a lot of them invest in how they feel in something. Even, you know, a lot of them talk about shoes, how they can walk in the shoes, what that makes them be like. And it changes the choreography, and the gait is really important. And so that's why it's really fun, I think, you know, that Mary keeps her pajamas on. It tells you something about the fact that she's never been taught how to dress herself, but it also tells you something that she can climb, and we don't have to worry about skirts and things, that there's a practicality to it. If a child is cold, then they're going to keep elements of their clothing on, and they don't conform to what adults say they should do. So I quite like that sort of wildness in her, and I think I liked the way it developed through the film, that she became more and more sort of eclectic in her dress. So, and I like Dickon. His feathered headdress. Yeah, I wanted him to be like part of the land. Like, he's this poor lost boy who's lost his dad, and he's sort of, I suppose, I like the idea of him being lost, but within the landscape. And so I try and just find things like that.
Oh, it's when you see this movie, you're gonna know why I interviewed her, because it's absolutely so amazing. Did you run into any challenges? I mean, clearly, besides breaking your foot on day 2, were there any other challenges?
Challenges, I guess. I mean, because we shoot out of order often. So we might shoot the end of the sequence before the beginning. And because I'd planned how the embroidery would grow onto a costume, it was really particular that we had to get the right costume on. So we had to make maybe 9 coats because
I didn't even think about that.
Stunt coats, and then we had to have the coats at 3 stages of growth. And then obviously in editing, sometimes it slips around and you get the wrong one. I go, no, it's the wrong coat. Like, can't you see? But obviously that's risk you take. No, this shouldn't be that coat. You've gone to the wrong coat. And so sometimes that gets lost. But the thing is, you can only react to the script you have. If it changes later, there's not much you can do about it. So sometimes we get blamed if the continuity is wrong. It's like, no. It was correct when we did it. With editing, they make different decisions. So it's always risky doing that. But I just love the way the gardens interacted with her, and that it would actually almost like caress her and be part of her. So that's what I wanted to do. And I liked actually the other dress I really liked doing was her mother and her aunt when they're running through the house, and the ghostly dresses and the embroidered ferns and birds on them. So that was a really special. They were special to do, and they were only on for moments. And it's sometimes hard to justify that amount of work, but then I don't really care. I think it's got to be totally beautiful, and that's what I'm going to do. And other than that, I think sometimes the burning, that was quite a challenge, because we couldn't burn dresses, obviously, because for when we're dressing on sets, we have to rent those dresses in. So we had to create the dresses out of fabric on stands. So it was fun. We had a competition, and myself and my 2 assistants, we had one each. We had the fabric, we had to create the best dress. So that was quite fun. I can't remember which one was mine. I don't know if it's the best either, but it's nice to do those little things to, amuse yourself. So that was fun. But challenge-wise, I think sometimes getting all the doubles done is quite tricky. And we were dyeing out of small vats, and sometimes it didn't do exactly the same color on each vat, and then we'd have to re-dye to get the same mauve. And that's sort of tricky, but they're just technical things. On the whole, not so much. I just think we were always working. I don't think we ever stopped. We were always like, even on the truck, we were sailing away and doing stuff. But if you feel passionate about it, you don't care really.
No.
It's only if you don't want to do it. It's fun if you do.
I love that. So when someone goes and sees this film, sees your amazing handiwork and all that of your team, I know it's not just you, clearly. You've got an amazing team behind you. What do you hope that that those who go and sit and watch, what do you hope that they take away from this film?
I just hope they lose themselves in it for a moment. It's a sort of, we have so much horror in our lives at the moment, and I just think it's such a beautiful story, and it has hope, really. And I think just immerse themselves in it and dream of better days.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I think it is a movie to get lost in. It is, I've continued also to describe it as if you're looking at the secret garden, but you're looking at it through the keyhole in the garden gate. And it's almost as if you fall into this other world, which you recognize as the secret garden, but you're never sure whether you're in a dream state, whether you're in reality, whether you're part of the imagination, whether it's a flashback. And so it is a space that has been created to get lost in.
Yeah. And we know that Mary makes up stories. We know that she...
Yes.
So, yeah, the wallpaper isn't coming to life. It's how she imagines it. To me, this isn't a wonderful box of imagination. And so, yeah, you're right, absolutely. Yeah, it's not literal. It's just things evolve and happen. It's beautiful and just the mind of it as a child. I don't know. Yeah, it's just. I think from all aspects, it's just a story that's really worth revisiting, and for adults and children, really, but particularly this, I think it's a lovely story for children. I think it makes them think. And they really latch onto it. You think maybe it's too adult, and maybe there are some adult themes, but it's in such a way that it's not. You don't miss anything from either side. It appeals to lots of people.
Oh my goodness. Michelle, thank you so much for this. This is such a pleasure.
And it's lovely to speak to you too.
I sincerely appreciate it. Thank you for telling us about all your little secret garden stories. One of the things that I do every time I come in contact with anyone who has worked on any project that helps to basically plant the secret garden forward into the hearts of others is that I now declare you an official secret gardener from the family of Frances Hodgson Burnett. Because, and I want to remind you that you didn't just create costumes, that you did create something that will help to heal, that will give hope, that will unlock imaginations, that will remind people that they too can change, that they can deal with grief, all of these things, and that your work really is beyond those stitches, and will live on in the magic of the story. So thank you so much for being a part of it, and thank you for saying yes.
That's okay. Thank you so much for asking me.
Awesome.
Oh my goodness, friends, that was so much fun. Now it's time to dig into our interview with the star of The Secret Garden, Dixie, who plays Mary. Listen in.
So welcome, Dixie. Thank you so much for being a part of this.
Oh, thank you for having me. Yeah.
So give our listeners and our watchers on YouTube, tell them who you are and what role you play in The Secret Garden.
Okay, so I'm Dixie and I play Mary Lennox in the Secret Garden film.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so did you grow up watching the movies, or had you read the book prior to this project?
Yeah, so when I was when my mum was a kid, she read the book, obviously, and it was her favorite book as a child. So when I was about 7, I read the book, and I really liked it, which is a good thing. And it was one of the first proper long novels that I read, so kind of had quite the impact. So I did know the story pretty well before I started the film, I guess.
And was this your first project? Your first movie?
No.
Okay.
No, but so I started doing acting when I was about 9. So quite a long time ago, and I've done bits and bobs, stuff like theatre and film and TV, but The Secret Garden, it was my first proper big, I guess you could say, leading role. I don't know, but yeah, in a film.
And how did that process go for you? Were you called in to read for the part, or tell me about that?
Yeah, so we got an email for a casting, and we had to do a tape, so we sent that off, did it, and then funnily enough, we sent the tape off on my birthday, so kind of nice little birthday.
Good luck.
Surprise, I guess. And then it was because I was seen, I think, at the beginning of the audition process. It was quite a long time, about 6 months from the time that I first auditioned to the time that we started filming. So kind of a long time. And yeah, I had a couple of recalls and I just got it, which was really fun.
Oh my goodness. What did you like about this character? What made you connect with her?
I think that the good thing about Mary, the character, is that she's quite complex, because I wouldn't say she's probably a very typical heroine. I'm not really sure. But
No.
for example, at the beginning, she's really not that nice, unlikable, sad, all this kind of stuff that you don't want in a person or in a heroine of the film. But obviously you see her grow, and I think the film is also really good because it kind of tells you why she's like she is. And yeah, so you see her journey of emotions and stuff, and how she grows and changes as a person for the better. And I think that was just a really cool part of her character, which was quite enticing, I suppose.
Oh my goodness. Were you excited when you got the part? Did your agent call you? How does that work?
I don't quite remember. I think, yeah, she called me and she was like, "Oh, you got it." And I was like, "Oh, cool." And I think, again, like I said before, it made it a whole lot nicer to get the part because I knew the story so well and I liked the book so much beforehand. You know what I mean?
Yes, absolutely. So within that time, it's been a couple years, right, since you filmed?
Yeah.
Which is crazy. How old were you when you filmed?
I was 12. Yeah, 12 years old. I feel like, I don't know, I feel like I've changed a little bit since then. I'd hope at least.
Just a little bit.
Just
Yes.
my hair's a little bit longer. And I might be a little bit taller. But yeah, I was about 12, so kind of young.
Can you think back, like when you think back on filming, what brought you the most joy during that time period?
I think probably, I think probably just being on the gardens, like on set because obviously we had the interior shots, right? They were all done in the studio, okay? Which was really cool, by the way. The studio was kind of cool. And because the set felt really real, like this old house, very nice. But I think probably what was the most fun, the most joyful, was getting to go and experience all of those gardens, because it was all around the UK, right? And for about 3 weeks we were just going and shooting, like, and traveling from garden to garden, and it was like midsummer, it was really hot, like, I don't know, it was just a really nice overall experience. It was just very happy, very nice, very fun. And I think, yeah, that was probably the most joyful bit of the week.
It seems like it was almost like a little mini vacation within your,
Yeah,
because
exactly.
that's what everybody said. They're like, we got to explore parts of the UK that we never even knew existed.
100%. It was, yeah. And it was really cool because, like you said, parts of the UK we didn't know existed. There was nature, like the variety of nature and stuff, the variety of plants. It was really crazy, just seeing it in real life. And I think it was really fun.
I think many people will see the film and assume that a lot of that is computer generated, and it's not. There's very little of that in the film, and because it's so fantastical, you assume, oh, that can't be real.
Yeah, and it's a common, I suppose it's a common misconception that it is majority CGI, but it really isn't. I think that was kind of the coolest part, was the fact that we got to experience that in real life, you know what I mean? And it really was as fantastical as you see in the film. So, yeah.
What are you most grateful for being a part of this project?
I think I'd probably say, a couple of things. I think probably kind of like the relationships that we all made on set. I know this is like really, really corny to say, but it did actually feel like a big family when we were all doing it, because obviously the fact that I was kind of on set almost every day, doing it. So I think being with all those people for such a long period of time, but we had these real, like, everyone was really friendly and really nice. And I think that's probably the most valuable thing I got from it, I guess.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I've heard that from pretty much hands down everyone as well. The same thing about everyone. And what did you learn through this experience, as far as like personal growth, or even your acting abilities? You were challenged to hold a whole movie, right, for the first time. That must have been.
Yeah, it was quite the challenge, I suppose. I think probably, like I said before, because I was on set quite a lot, like the majority of the time, I think I learned just a lot in general about like the whole filmmaking process, if you see what I mean.
Yes.
Because obviously there's the bit that you see on the camera, which is like the acting and everything, all that jazz. But then there's like the stuff behind the camera, like all the crew. Genuinely, it's amazing how much hard work they put into it, and all this stuff that you can see, like, and everything else that goes into making a film, which I hadn't really got to experience before doing this film. So I think I'd probably say that I did just learn a lot from the overall process of filmmaking, if you see what I mean.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm sure the timing too, it gave you time to actually ask questions of all of those people behind the scenes. Did it make you want to ever like do some of those other pieces behind the camera, or are you full-fledged like, nope, I know how hard those people work, I don't want to do that one, I want to do this other, you know what I mean?
Yeah, kind of a mixture of both. I think it was definitely really, really interesting to see that like how much goes on behind the camera, what one doesn't see from a film. That was really cool, and learning about all of that was just, it was crazy to me. But even though it would be amazing to do that, I don't know if I'm the type of person that would suit that kind of atmosphere, because it's constant hard work, which, you know, is very, very admirable. But I mean, I don't know if I'd be good enough for that.
Well, maybe someday. It's
Maybe.
cool. I'm excited that you got to get a taste of that, because I think it's, I mean, even just me from interviewing some of these guys, I would never have interviewed a producer before, or a director, and even understood what they all did. And for me, it's been amazing too. I can't even imagine. So you're on set all day long, you know, they're taking these shots, you're doing this piece, you know, sometimes out of order and all of those things. Tell me about when you sat down to watch the film. Tell me what that experience was like.
It was really weird, honestly, because we went into the little mini cinema screening room, whatever you want to call it, and we saw it. And for me, even though, I mean, I could obviously appreciate how beautifully shot it is, and like how, you know, I mean, obviously I'm a little biased, but I like the film. I thought it was really good. But it was really, really weird to like watch myself do stuff, especially because it was literally 2 years ago. So it's like, I didn't feel like that person anymore. You see what I mean? I felt completely different, and it was a really weird experience, but it was a good experience overall, I'd say. Just kind of odd watching myself. And also seeing what like the camera saw, because obviously when we were filming, you know, I had a kind of completely different point of view of what the scenes looked like, and then seeing what they were actually meant to look like finished. That was the coolest bit, I think.
Yeah, I can't even imagine, especially the way the movie kind of weaves in and out of so many kind of almost, you know, state of imagination and, you know, flashbacks and then back to reality. I can't imagine, you know, seeing, like you said, seeing what you saw, and then all of a sudden seeing the way they stitched it together is a whole other piece of art unto itself.
Yeah, I think so, maybe.
Did you have any challenges that came up during the filmmaking for you?
I think, okay, so because obviously I'm at school, right? I have school, because I'm a child. We had to be tutored. And I think one of the most difficult things was, don't get me wrong, I don't like school the majority of the time, but I have to get education, and it's important to, you know, maintain that, especially when you're filming for that period of time. And so I think probably one of the biggest challenges is, because I know I keep repeating myself, but because I was in a lot of scenes and everything, trying to fit in the certain amount of hours that we had to be tutored was quite a challenge. But, you know, it did have its upsides, I guess. It was a lot of fun. Like, for example, there was a garden that we went to in Cornwall, and it was called Tree Bar, and it had, like, you know, those big Gunnera plants. They kind of look like umbrellas, those really cool things. That was the garden which had them. And the cool thing was, at the end of the garden, there was like this mini private beach kind of thing. And because, I know, and because there was all this, you know, nice sun and nice weather and everything, they put the tent, the place where we would be tutored, down there. So, you know, we got to experience, albeit doing schoolwork, we got to have a nice little time on the beach. So.
Wow. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I can't even imagine. And there's requirements too, right, for child actors, like how long you could work and all of those kinds of things. Colin was telling me, which I know his name's not Colin, but as far as I'm concerned, you're Mary and he's Colin. Colin was telling me about all the doubles, and that was also something that I don't think that most people think about. But that, you know, because you can only be on set for so long, they had to use some body doubles to do shots where your face wasn't shown and stuff too. So I didn't even think about that.
I know. Before we did it, I didn't consider that, but it's actually a huge part of actually doing a film with kids in it, because it is obviously extremely important to not overwork kids and to let them have breaks and to tutor them and everything. But yeah, I would say it's probably not something that you consider when you start out making film. It's interesting though.
Mm-mm. So talk to me, when people go see this film, what do you hope that adults, kids, and anyone who go, grandmothers that go to see this film, what do you hope that they take away from it? What do you hope that they plant deep in their hearts?
I'd say, I think what we want people to take away from it is a bunch of things. Like, for example, nature, right? Nature is a really big part of the film, obviously, but the messages in the film, like, you know, that we need to protect nature, the kind of healing properties of nature, I think that's really important. I think that's a good thing that we want people to take away, because, you know, nature is incredibly important. And I think, personally, I think it should be protected and conserved and all that. And I think the film kind of does have a lot of themes of that. And I also think that, you know, the film, it has like themes of like loss and, you know, sad stuff, but it's important to take away the power of nature, but also like how people can grow and change a lot, because obviously that's, again, a big part of it. You know, all the characters grow and change in a way, for the better, hopefully.
Yes.
And yeah, so I think those are the main things that we kind of want people to take away from it when they watch it. So yeah.
I couldn't agree more. I loved that they cast you. I think that you were the perfect fit for the way they created this whole new vision of the Secret Garden, and I'm so thrilled that you agreed to be a part of it. One of the things that I do when I come in contact with anyone who has basically helped to plant the Secret Garden story forward, is that I declare you, Dixie, you are now an official secret gardener from the Francis family. And really what I mean by that is that I want you to understand that you didn't just play a role, you helped to create something that will last in the hearts of people for a very, very long time. It'll remind them that they can change. It'll help them protect nature. It will help people who have been grieving or don't understand their parents. There's so many things that you helped to create, and what you made was very, very important. And it's a legacy that I'm excited that you said yes to. And I'm super thankful for you and what you did on this project.
Thank you very much. Thank you. That's really nice.
You're very welcome. And thank you to everyone else who has been listening to this podcast. And until next time, blessings and blooms, y'all. Thank you, Dixie.
Thank you.
Y'all, I had so much fun talking with Michelle and Dixie today. I can hardly believe that this is the final episode in this series. But I am so thankful to STX Entertainment, Studio Canal, and Heyday Films for this opportunity to give my listeners a peek behind the ivy curtain of this brilliant version of my great-great-grandmother's story. I want to encourage you all, of course, to go see the new Secret Garden film with a new set of eyes, hopefully. But I also want to encourage you to check out Michelle and Dixie's other projects. Michelle has done costume work for Game of Thrones and Mamma Mia, Here We Go Again, and The Crown. And Dixie's been featured in The Little Stranger and Patrick Melrose. And remember, since this is the 5th and final podcast in this series of interviews with those who have helped bring the new Secret Garden movie to life, if you missed any of them, I encourage you to go back and listen to them all. I know that you will come out with an even better appreciation for the beautiful work that they've created. And don't forget to stay tuned here for next week's episode as we resume our series titled The Practice Of, with an interview with Haley Solano, who is a blogger behind An Enchanted Life, an inspiring destination for all things whimsical and romantic, from celebrating cherished literature to sharing tea party ideas and everything in between. She helps others discover and create magic in their own lives. So make sure to follow The Well-Tended Life on Instagram and Facebook, and subscribe today to our podcast and YouTube channels by the same name. And until next time, y'all, blessings and blessings.